Hey, it's Karamu, and this is a practice to stabilize the area between the hips and the ribs. I would recommend doing the opening practice first always, and if you did your own thing, that's absolutely fine, but just try to make sure that the fascia is loose and open, so that when we're stabilizing, we're not fighting against this tissue that's a little bit open. What I want you to focus on here, and what we'll be focusing on in a second, is strengthening the lower back in a lengthened position, the upper back in a lengthened position, the serratus, so the chest can stay lifted as well and it's not collapsing in this position. We'll also do some glute leg work, a little bit of core work. When you're ready, I am going to be using blocks, but when you're ready, we'll be on the lower back. You can put the blocks aside for a second. Well, mic fell out. 1 second. All right. Lifting the hips up, come into that bridge pose. Rib cage is nice and lifted. Just get a feeling sense. Nice. Make sure if you're leaning onto one leg more than the other that you try to correct that so that you've got equal pressure on both legs, equal pressure around each joint. One more time. And just a few deep breaths here. All right. When you're ready, you can straighten out the legs a little bit. Well, actually completely straighten them out. And think about reaching the heels along your mat away from you. As you do that, you can slowly start to lift the hips up. Now, if you're looking at the screen, which technically you shouldn't be, but whatever, my hips are very close to the ground. It's more that I'm just beginning to turn on the muscles that would lift me up. So if you're trying to lift up completely in one go, don't do that. Lifting, maybe becoming 2 kilos lighter, and then slowly 3 kilos lighter. And as you're lifting, you're still reaching the heels away, and then we're also going to very slowly lift the chest and the ribs away from the hips. So the hips are reaching away from you, the chest is lifting towards you, and then we're going to release. Try to do this with a neutral spine so we're not pressing the lower back into the floor. By the way, if this is too hard, you can also put the blocks or something under the hips, something soft, not so high, and then work from there. What I want you to feel is that the glutes are working and that you're not collapsing onto one leg. So reach the heels away again. As they're reaching away, reaching out of the heels, you slowly start to lift 2 kilos, 3 kilos up. Pull the lower belly in, lift the chest away. If you want, you can just tip a little bit over to the right leg, tip a little bit over to the left leg, just moving back and forth, just to figure out if you're actually centered or not, and then coming back down. Again, 2-3 kilos, you really don't need to go far up. I want to keep everything nice and long. I'll try one more time. Reaching the heels away, pull the lower belly in. Make sure the glutes are working. Glutes are working in a lengthened position. Hips are reaching away from the ribs. Ribs are reaching up towards the chest, the chin, excuse me. Lower belly is in. If you can pull the pelvic bowl in as well, feel free. One more time. Exhale, releasing down. Shake it out. When you're ready, you can bend the knees. Bend the knees with the feet nice and flat. Make sure the feet are a little bit wider. If we're about to do, actually, if this is the first time, just grab the block and you can place the block between the knees, okay? I have it on its widest setting, but you can figure out what works for you best. And make sure that the feet, they stay wider than the knees, wider than the blocks. So make sure you don't lose the block in a second. What we're gonna do is very actively try to rip your mat apart with your feet, just to get the sense, the feeling sense of which muscles need to activate. Now, as I do that, naturally the hips, the pelvis is gonna tilt. So you can just reach. Feet, the feet and the heels, they're trying to reach away from each other. I'm trying to tear the mat apart without losing the block. Now, the ribs aren't going to go with it, so we're going to keep the lower belly nice and long. And then we're going to lift the heels up. My big toes are still down, and I'm still trying to get that same action, right? If the hands need to be in a different position, that's absolutely fine. If you notice that it's too much weight, bring the knees in closer. When you're ready, you lift the feet up, flex the feet. So the feet are pointing out, not in. And the toes are being pulled in towards you. Now imagine still ripping the mat apart. Pull the lower belly in. And see if you can get some action deep into the hip flexors, the lowest part of your abs. And you might need to reach the knees away from you if you need more weight, or if you're noticing that you're just compensating, you pull the knees in towards you. Bring the feet down. We're just going to do this a few times. So you can lift up again. Knees are in. Feet are reaching away from each other. Outside of the hips are working. Lower belly is being pulled in. And slowly, as you reach the knees away from you, try to keep that alignment in the hips. So you're not doing everything out of one leg, it's both legs that are working, outside of both hips. Even the lower belly, and then relax. It should be very deep in the hips that you're feeling this, very deep. Lower belly, hips. You can think about the lowest part of your abs. So not the 6-pack, but the 8-pack, that V-looking thing on all those really sexy guys and stuff. All right, bring the knees in again. You can I don't know why I said that. You can bring the knees a little bit further away this time, maybe adding a little bit more weight. Pull the lower belly in if you can. Breathe, feel free to. And we're not trying to pull in the lower back, okay? Really try to get the action going from the hips, keeping the ribs away, and then slowly release. Now again, if you can do this without the block, if you can bring the legs away further, feel free. All I'm trying to do is get you to create the stability that'll keep this length going, right? Long abs, keeping pressure off of the lower back. Coming into that bridge pose again. Again, notice the difference. You can lift the chest up a little bit, making sure that both legs are working. And then we can walk the feet in towards each other. Knees are in, feet are together. And you're just very slowly going to shift the weight onto the right foot. And then lift the left leg up a little bit. It doesn't need to go very far, just a little bit up. What I want you to do is the right knee is going to point in a little bit, and the right hip is going to come up. Knee in, hip up, knee in, hip up. Try to work from the outside of the glute. Find the position where the glute starts to fire,
And the rib cage starts to open. Coming back down into center. We're going to switch sides. Lifting from the right leg, the left leg. Left knee is in, hip is out. And you're slowly going to lift. Try to get the engagement so that the outside is working a little bit more. And you will feel eventually, you'll feel that the hip and the rib start to reach away from each other. You'll feel that length. Knee turns in, hip goes up. Slowly coming into center. One more side, or one more time on both sides. Right leg coming up, reaching away. Make sure that glute is working. All right, lifting the hip even higher. And if you want to add more weight, you can always extend the top leg a little bit over to the side. But I want you to focus on that alignment, that the outside of the leg is working. Oh my gosh. Coming back down. Switching sides, lifting the hip. Again, if you're not feeling anything, try to adjust. Try to figure out where you need to be to get that engagement, to get that length. Knee is turned in just a little bit. Think about putting the pressure on the inside of your heel. Lifting the hips up a little bit more. And slowly coming back down. Relax the hips. Bring the legs out nice and wide. Shake it out a little bit. Oh my gosh. Pull the legs in. Maybe give yourself a nice little hug. Try not to round too much in the back and everything. We just opened out the front and the sides. And you can roll over to one side and come up. All right. So make sure that the hands are shoulder width apart. You're just going to lean forward a little bit and back. I'm not going very far, but what I want you to focus on is not just dumping in the back, but keeping the core nice and long. And I want you to think about the collarbones. The collarbones are going to be lifting up and forward, right? Mini bend in the knee, in the elbows, collarbones going forward and up. It's a slight movement, but this will help us understand what we need to be doing in Chaturanga. So once that's ready, you can bring your blocks towards the knees. So my knees are in together. If you haven't warmed up in the wrists or the shoulders, just pause the video really quick and maybe give the shoulders the nice little roll out. But you're going to bring the thighs onto the blocks. All right, now if you're like me, you're dumping right now in the lower back, and that's not what we want to be doing. I want you to think about bringing the arms in that nice chaturanga position. Fingertips are pointing out a little bit, and you're going to bend the elbows down. As you're here, extend the chest forward. Reach the hips away from the ribs. Right? Think about widening in the shoulders. Deep breath. Collarbones are reaching forward. And slowly coming out. Roll it out. So what tends to happen is the elbows will reach out, but you're trying to keep them in. Elbows above the wrists, all right? Not too far out at the moment. And if your shoulder stability is really off, widen the hands a little bit more. Think about lifting the chest in that direction, all right? Coming back in. Think about the alignment in the wrists as well. As you come down, you can see I'm trying to keep the torso nice and long. And instead of the shoulders popping up, I'm trying to lift. Trying. All right. Reaching collarbones forward. Bending the elbows so that the chest is just above the elbows. Right? See that mini bend I've got going on? One more breath. And release. Oh my gosh. Whew. I'm going to do this one more time. This time, once you're up, if you can, think about lifting the legs, the thighs, just a little bit off of the block. Same as you were doing on your lower back. It was 1, maybe 2 kilos, a little bit more. What's more important is that this here is engaging, keeping you nice and long. All right, one more time. Reaching down, chest is lifted. And I don't care how the pose looks, but if the energy is running through the pose, fantastic. Reaching and lifting. If you want, you're bending so that the hips and the chest is a nice line. And you can think about lifting the hips off of the block. I'm going to stop talking. And release. Woo! Let it breathe for a second. If you want something soft to just kind of work through the shoulders, you can just sit here. One of my friends calls these bad waiters. He has no idea what he's doing while serving. Deep breath. And you can grab your blocks again. And you can come forward into a nice squat. So make sure that the knees are nice and bent. And you can bring the elbows onto the thighs if that's okay for you. And lift the chest nice and up. All right, I want you to think about sitting in a chair. So you're reaching the hips back a little bit and reaching the hips away from the ribs so the chest starts to come up. Heels are pressing down. And you can bring the arms a little bit more forward. Lengthen ribs away from the hips. Chest is trying to lift up. Hips are trying to go back. Toes are pressing down. Reach for your blocks. Lengthen the legs. Lengthen the belly. Same thing. Try to find that position with a really long belly, lower belly especially, so that space under the belly button, trying to lengthen there. There it is. One more breath. And release. Two more breaths here. All right, from here, you can step 1 foot forward. I have the right foot forward. And instead of having the toes pointing forward, I want you to point the toes over to the side, all right? You can bend the knee forward a little bit, place the block somewhere where it's easy right now for you. Now think about lengthening the belly again. And think about lifting, the same action of lifting that chest up and the collarbones forward. All right, you're very slowly going to tip forward, bring the back leg up, tip forward, bring the back leg up. Trying your best to keep the weight on the outside of the front leg. Slowly start to step the back foot further back, coming up. Not trying to go more forward and pushing forward from the back leg, but just lifting up. Should fire the right leg up a little bit, or the front leg up a little bit. Come into center. And we're going to switch sides. So you're just stepping forward a few times. Trying to catch the weight in the front leg. And try not to really push from the back leg, pushing yourself forward. Just trying to lift up. All right. Now you can step further back. As you come back, really relax in that front leg. One more. Stepping forward. Try your forward fold. If you need the blocks under the hands, that's absolutely fine. A few deep breaths there, and you can slowly come out. And as with all the alignment practices, I would highly recommend also clearing out the inner circuits. Personally, I think that's done more for my alignment than any physical practice. So do the meditations, do the energetic practice, clear out the baggage. Thanks for joining. Namaste, and hope to see you soon.